So, welcome to this session about shaping retail in transport hubs. We're going to talk about spaces in old transit hubs, old airport terminals, old stations, spaces in the old world, Europe, but also in Asia, new airports, relatively new stations and important transit hubs in the Middle East and the Far East. And then we're going to move to consumers, the type of consumers that these places cater to. There's going to be a lot to talk about there because we're going to look at global trends, and obviously the type of passengers, the type of commuters.
Just to get back to railway stations, they have got almost now in the UK a duty of care to the environment. And what we're finding in the UK, and indeed in Rome, is that they are an extension of the urban grain of a city. Because railway stations were built, nearly all major railway stations were built many years ago as a core connector for the trains, for business, for commuters, for industry. Before aeroplanes were even invented, railway stations were there. What's happened over the last 30 years ago, areas around railway stations were often neglected because these were considered as not being in key retail areas. Retail was built maybe only 100 metres away or a mile away. Railway stations suffered because they became derelict places. This has changed. In the United Kingdom now, railway stations have now been regenerated. It isn't just about regenerating the railway station. What's happened is it's had a knock-on effect and it's regenerated the area around it. For example, St Pancras railway station, which was converted fairly recently as the new Eurostar connector, is no longer just about a railway station, it's about an experience. And people use that railway station no longer just as commuters to catch a train from here to there. They no longer use that railway station to go over to Paris or Brussels. They go to that railway station because it's a wonderful place. They go there to dine, they go there to shop. They're not necessarily passengers. And that's the great advantage of what railway stations can now do. They can connect to the city. They create a win-win situation for the urban areas of that city, the central areas, and the commercial heart of the railway station itself. So there is a tremendous opportunity with inner city railway stations, which is continuously growing, especially in the UK and everywhere else, Berlin, Vienna, Rome, everywhere. So there's a huge opportunity to exploit.
The new opportunity for developing shops and services in our station is because more and more people spend time in public transport. And the more time they spend in public transport, the less time they have after work or for the weekend. And by developing shops and services in stations, we give them an opportunity to save time. Hairdressers in stations, for example. In a way, with a concept in which people spend only 10 minutes because they do not have much time to spend in the station, but the time they spend in the station having their haircut is a time that they save.
We strongly believe that revising the concept, so it's about the concept, it's not only retail development, we can completely transform the station from what was for the railway company in the past just a loss in the profit and loss account into a profit center. And it's about creating a concept in terms of making all the steps in terms of the architecture, in terms of the repositioning of the commercial offer, in terms of having the correct flows of passengers also driven by the retail areas and all the services that we are connecting into the stations, because we are trying to deliver a new urban plaza. I mean, so not only a shopping center, the stations are not be transformed into shopping centers, but definitely into piazzas in which you can find all the services dedicated to passengers, but also to the catchment area which is around.
I think over in Asia we do not have stations that are as old as what you see in France and Italy. But one interesting phenomenon we see is actually because of the building of the transportation hub and the new metro and integration of various parts of the transportation. We are actually building new buildings that allow us to redesign the whole mix as well as how the commuters are going through.
But airports, I think one has to think about space in a slightly different way. Airports, what drives the thinking in airports, of course, is safety and security. And so any comments I make about airports, always bear in mind that the landlord and the operators of that are thinking first and foremost about safety and security. And therefore that affects the processing that's happening. So all of you, or many of you, would have flown here and would have had to take your belt off, your shoes off, your coat, taken things out of your bag and dismantled yourself before getting into airside. So the whole flow of how you're handling an airport is quite a difficult thing for all of us to cope with. So I think the challenges in airports in terms of creating space is how do you keep everybody as relaxed as possible?
It's very, very important to design your airports, as David was saying, to make sure that that customer flow, that customer journey, that passenger journey is really, really easy and clear. It's really important, therefore, that what's going on at the landside area makes your passengers stress-free. They have to go through security in a comfortable and easy way. If you're standing in a security line for 20 minutes, as most of us have to do at various airports, you don't feel as though when you immediately once you go through security and you get to the airside part, do I really want to shop? I'm stressed out. You've got to reduce those stress levels. There's absolutely no point putting retail in areas where passengers are going through what we call process. Check-in, security, passport control. People aren't going to shop. You've got to de-stress those people so that when they get into those airside areas, they feel as though their stress levels are better. Because that's when you've got them. They may be there for an hour, they may be there for 2 hours, they may be there for longer if their flight's delayed. What are they going to spend their money on?
We are implementing a pretty new business model which helps us to optimize our value captation. So looking at our positioning, it's very focused on ferry, on Paris, on mainly 3 key lines: perfume and cosmetics, luxury, fashion, and l'art de vivre à la française. But saying that is not enough. We have also to get the best brands which personify the most the idea of Paris on each categories. So we really, 5 years ago, begin to conquer a lot of new brands to have the best portfolio as we can.
In terms of the change in passenger numbers and passenger figures and the money that they're spending, it's important to think of 2 things. Not always about foot flow, but about penetration. What they spend their money on in those airports. What do you capture? Secondly, think about the massive change in the future in 2017, 2022 and beyond, about the huge change in transit passengers.
We're looking at a massive explosion of airport users, and particularly from certain regions of the world.
Yes, well, assuming that there isn't a massive oil crisis, all of the industry numbers are predicting, today there are about 5 billion passengers, and that's when they talk those numbers, that's arriving and departing. By 2017, that's going to be just over 7 billion. And by 2027, that's going to be just about 11 billion. So the market's set to more than double in the next 10 to 15 years, which is astronomical. So that's a lot of aircraft, which is why we keep seeing how many aircraft are being purchased and the types of aircraft that are being used. If you look at the opportunities within those figures and what the retail markets are worth, today, just the tax and duty-free business that you're used to seeing, so that's fragrance, cosmetics, liquor, tobacco, and fashion brands, they're the couture brands, they're worth about $40 billion US. That's the global sales, and that's generation data, who are the folks that monitor that. By 2020, that's going to be about 84 billion there. What's driving that growth? Most definitely Asia.